The snow fell in thick, silent curtains over the sprawling estate on the outskirts of Chicago, blanketing the iron gates and the winding drive in a deceptive peace. Alessandro Moretti stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his study, a tumbler of aged scotch in hand, watching the city lights flicker like distant warnings across the frozen lake. Christmas Eve, and the mansion felt emptier than usual. No boisterous family gatherings, no orchestrated displays of loyalty from his underlings. Just the low hum of the security system, the crackle of the fireplace, and the weight of a life built on shadows. At 45, Alessandro had clawed his way to the top of the Moretti syndicate through a code he never broke. Protect the innocent, honor debts, and never let sentiment cloud judgment. But tonight, sentiment clawed at him. 15 years ago, he'd lost Maria, his wife, gunned down in a rival hit meant for him. No children, no legacy beyond the empire. The pain had hardened into resolve, turning him into the man who controlled the docks, the warehouses, and the quiet flows of cash that kept the city turning. Yet here he was, alone with ghosts. The intercom buzzed, sharp against the quiet. "Boss," came Marco's voice, his head of security, laced with unease. "2 kids at the gate, boy and girl, maybe 8 or 9, twins. They're soaked from the snow carrying a backpack. Say they're here to see their dad. You." Alessandro's grip tightened on the glass. Kids? On Christmas? His mind raced through possibilities. Rival ploy, bait for an ambush, some desperate ploy from a low-level associate. Description? Dark hair, green eyes, look like they've been walking a while. No adults with them now, but a car dropped them off and peeled out. Black sedan, plates obscured by mud. We're running it. Bring them in. Full sweep first. No chances. He set the glass down, the ice clinking like a warning. The estate's perimeter cameras would catch any tales, but something about this gnawed at him. Innocence didn't just appear at his door. Minutes later, the study door opened. Marco ushered in the children, their coats dripping melted snow onto the Persian rug. The boy stood protective in front, chin lifted defiantly, while the girl clutched a sealed envelope, her knuckles white. They were mirror images, olive skin, those piercing green eyes, shivering but unbowed. Alessandro's breath caught. He knew those eyes, from a dream or a memory buried deep. "Who sent you?" His voice was steady, commanding, but softer than he'd intended. No threats, not to kids. The boy stepped forward. You're Alessandro Moretti, right? Our dad." The word hit like a suppressed shot. Alessandro's world tilted. He scanned their faces, searching for lies, for the telltale twitch of deception. Nothing. Just wide-eyed certainty. "Your dad? I've got no kids. Who's been filling your heads with stories?" The girl thrust the envelope forward, her voice small but clear. "Mom said to give you this. She dropped us here because it's safe now. Read it. Please." Marco hovered by the door, hand on his holster, eyes flicking to the cameras. Alessandro took the envelope, the paper crisp and unmarked, save for his name in elegant script. Elena. The name slammed into him before he even opened it. Elena Vasquez, the fiery lawyer he'd tangled with a decade ago during a messy port dispute. One night of reckless passion after a tense negotiation, a promise of nothing more. She'd vanished months later, no trace, no goodbye. Could it be? He slit the seal with a letter opener, unfolding the single sheet. The words blurred at first, then sharpened into betrayal and revelation. Alessandro. "They call you the untouchable king of the shadows, but you were always more to me. That night we shared wasn't just escape. It was the start of them. Luca and Sophia, your twins. I kept them hidden, away from your world, because I knew what it costs. But the threats have found us. Rivals from the east, The Valentinos. They've been circling, using old grudges to strike at you through what's yours. I can't protect them anymore. A burner phone tipped me off last week. They're watching my apartment, tracing my moves. The kids know enough to find you. I made sure of that in case. They're yours now. Raise them with that code you live by. Don't come for me. It's too dangerous. But if you ever wondered, you were always their father. Elena. The room spun. Twins. His. The letter trembled in his hand, the implications crashing like waves against the docks he controlled. The Valentinos, that snake pit of a family, encroaching on his shipping routes for months, subtle probes turning to open sabotage. A tampered manifest last week, a guard found floating in the river. But this, using children as leverage? His code roared in protest. Innocents were off limits always. Yet here they were, delivered like a bomb. Dad? Sophia's voice pulled him back. She tugged at his sleeve, her touch feather light. Mom said you'd know what to do. Alessandro's knees buckled. He sank into the leather chair, the letter crumpling in his fist. Collapse wasn't in his nature, not from bullets, not from betrayals. But this? Fatherhood, thrust upon him like a death sentence in the making. The twins watched, expectant, as the fire popped and the snow thickened outside. Marco cleared his throat. Boss, we got a hit on that sedan. Rented under a false name, ditched 2 blocks away. She's in the wind. Alessandro nodded, forcing steel back into his spine. Elena. After all this time, she'd returned his legacy wrapped in danger. But why now? And what else did that letter hide? A plea? A trap? Or the key to pulling her back into his world, where she belonged? As the first security alerts began to chime, distant cars on the access road, Alessandro pulled the twins close, their small warmth a anchor in the storm. The night was just beginning, and the real threat was closing in. The fire in the study crackled like distant gunfire, casting flickering shadows across the twins' faces as Alessandro held them close for a moment longer than he intended. Luca's small frame stiffened under his arm, a boy's instinctive wariness, while Sophia leaned in, her cheek pressing against the wool of his sweater. The scent of wet snow clung to them, mingling with the sharp tang of pine from the mantle garland, a hollow nod to the holiday that now felt like a cruel joke. Outside, the wind howled against the reinforced windows, rattling the panes as if the storm itself sensed the intrusion. Marco, Alessandro said, his voice low and controlled, pulling back to meet his security chief's gaze. The man hadn't moved, his broad shoulders filling the doorway, eyes scanning the room like a hawk on patrol. Lock down the perimeter, double the patrols on the access roads, and get a team tracing that burner phone Elena mentioned. No traces, no slip-ups. Marco nodded once, crisp and efficient, already keying commands into the wrist-mounted tablet that linked him to the estate's network. On it, boss. The kids. Should I have Doc check them out? They're chilled through. Alessandro glanced down at Luca and Sofia, their green eyes mirroring his own in a way that twisted something deep in his chest. 15 years of solitude, of building walls higher than the Chicago skyline, and now this. 2 pieces of himself, delivered on a platter of peril. His code demanded protection, sentiment, buried but stirring, demanded more. Yeah, but keep it here. No one leaves this wing until we know what's out there. As Marco stepped out, murmuring into his radio, Alessandro guided the twins to the leather sofa by the fire. The room's warmth seeped into their coats, steam rising faintly from the damp fabric. He knelt to their level, searching for words that didn't come easy. Tell me about your mom. Everything. Start from the beginning. Luca crossed his arms, his defiance cracking just a fraction. She said not to trust anyone but you, that you're the only one who keeps promises. His voice was steady for a kid his age, but the faint shiver betrayed him. Sophia nodded, unwrapping a soggy scarf to reveal a silver locket at her neck. Simple, engraved with intertwined initials, A and E. Alessandro's finger brushed the locket instinctively, the metal cool against his skin. Elena's touch, preserved. "She gave you this?" "For Christmas," Sophia whispered. "She said it was from you, even though you didn't know. We opened it early because the bad men came." The words hung heavy, pulling at the threads of the letter. Valentino's. Those East Side vultures had been nipping at his shipping lanes for months. Subtle at first, rerouted manifests from the docks, a warehouse guard vanishing mid-shift with whispers of bribes. But targeting Elena, using the kids, it reeked of escalation, a personal strike meant to unbalance him. He stood, pacing to the window, the city lights blurring through the frost. The estate's floodlights pierced the snow, illuminating the wrought iron gates and the snow-dusted evergreens that hid motion sensors and tripwires. No movement out there yet, but the alert still hummed faintly from the console. "Bad men?" he prompted, turning back. "What did they look like? What did they do?" Luca leaned forward, his small hands gesturing like he'd rehearsed it. "Black cars, like the one that dropped us. 2 guys at our building last night, tall, with tattoos on their necks. Mom saw them from the window, said they were watching. She packed our bags quick, told us to run if anything happened. Then this morning, she drove us here, said the gates would know us." Alessandro's mind cataloged the details: neck tattoos, Valentino signature, roses and thorns inked crude. The black sedan, plates muddied deliberately. Elena's apartment in the city's edge, a modest walk-up he'd once traced during their affair, now a vulnerability. She'd hidden well for a decade, probably under aliases, scraping by as a legal aid worker to stay off radars. But grudges didn't forget. The port dispute that sparked their night together had left scars, and the Valentinos never forgave a lost shipment. A soft knock interrupted. Doc Rivera, the syndicate's discreet physician, entering with a medical kit and steaming mugs of cocoa. He was a wiry man in his 60s, ex-army medic with a bedside manner honed on bullet wounds, not bedtime stories. "Just a once-over, kids. Warm up first." As the twins sipped, chatter filling the air with hesitant questions about the mansion's size, Alessandro slipped to the desk, unfolding the letter again. The elegant script mocked him now, Elena's words a lifeline and a noose. "They're yours now." But why Christmas? A signal or desperation? He traced the paper's edge, high-quality stock, watermarked faintly with a legal firm's logo. Vasquez and Associates? No, she'd cut ties years ago, a clue, perhaps, to her current alias. The console beeped sharply. Marco's voice crackled over the intercom. "Boss, got something. That sedan's GPS pinged a dead drop in a loop alley. Burner tossed there. And the kids' drop-off? Camera caught a tail. Gray SUV, circling the block before peeling off toward the river tunnels. We're scrambling a drone sweep." Alessandro's jaw tightened. The river tunnels, old smuggling routes he'd sealed off after Maria's death, now likely reopened by rivals for quick escapes. If the Valentinos were this bold, Elena was exposed, maybe already grabbed for leverage. His code screamed to act, but prudence held him. Rushing in blind was suicide, especially with the twins here. Loyalty to them first, his new legacy, fragile and demanding. Sophia's voice cut through, small but insistent. "Dad, Mom said you'd read the whole letter. There's a code inside for if we need help." "A code?" He scanned the page again, eyes catching a subtle anomaly. The date at the bottom, 12/24, but the 2 slightly offset, like a hidden digit. Flipping it, faint indentations appeared, pressed from writing on the reverse. "Safe house. 47W Elm, key under mat. V watching. Elm Street, West Side Warehouse District. His territory, but contested lately with botched shipments. The fire popped, embers scattering like warnings. Alessandro pocketed the letter, resolve hardening. "We're moving you two to the safe room. Now." As Doc finished the check, mild hypothermia. Nothing a blanket and rest couldn't fix. The distant rumble of engines echoed through the snow. Allies or ambush? He pulled the twins to their feet, the weight of fatherhood settling like fresh snow, burying old ghosts under new threats. But as the hidden code burned in his mind, Alessandro wondered, was Elena leading him to safety or straight into the Valentino's trap? The safe room's door sealed behind them with a hydraulic hiss, the reinforced steel blending seamlessly into the oak-paneled wall of the study. Alessandro punched in the override code on the hidden keypad, the lights dimming to a soft emergency glow inside. Luca and Sophia huddled on the built-in bench, wrapped in wool blankets that smelled faintly of mothballs and cedar from the estate's linen closets. The air hummed with the low whir of the ventilation system, recirculating warmth against the chill seeping through the mansion's bones. "Stay put," Alessandro instructed, his voice a gravelly anchor in the confined space. He knelt again, meeting their eyes. His eyes, reflected back with a child's unfiltered trust that pierced him deeper than any rival's blade. "This room's got everything. Food, water, monitors to see what's happening. Marco's men are outside. No one gets in without my say." Luca's jaw set, small fists clenching the blanket's edge. "What about Mom? The code? You're going, aren't you?" Sophia nodded, her locket glinting under the LED strips. "She said you'd come for her, like in the stories." Alessandro's throat tightened. Stories. Elena had spun tales of him as some caped protector, not the man who'd built an empire on calculated risks and quiet enforcements. The river's icy breath from his memory, Maria's last gasp, warned him against it, but the code pulled like a current. 47W Elm. His warehouse district, a maze of loading docks and shadowed alleys where shipments vanished into the night. If Elena was there, holed up with a key under the mat, it meant she'd anticipated this, planned for the fallout of their one reckless night. The rumble outside grew insistent, engines growling through the snow like predators circling. Alessandro tapped the intercom. "Marco, status. 2 vehicles on the outer road. Our convoy from the city, but they're reporting a shadow. Gray SUV, same as the tail on the kids. Holding at the gate. Drones are up. Thermal shows 3 heat signatures inside the SUV, hunkered low. Jam their comms. Bring our boys in, but sweep the drive first. No gaps." Alessandro straightened, the weight of his Beretta a familiar press against his ribs. He couldn't leave the twins exposed, but inaction would doom Elena, and whatever fragile family she'd thrust upon him. His code demanded balance. Protect the blood, honor the debt. Fatherhood wasn't a title. It was a vow now, etched in that letter's hidden lines. As the safe room's monitors flickered to life, showing grainy feeds of the estate's perimeter, sodium lights cutting through swirling flakes, guards in tactical vests fanning out with suppressed rifles, Alessandro slipped back into the study. The fire had died to embers, the room's opulence mocking the chaos. Crystal decanters on the sideboard, a half-unwrapped gift for a nephew who wouldn't arrive. He grabbed his coat, the leather creaking as he shrugged it on, and keyed a secure line to his lieutenant at the docks. "Vito, it's me. Run a quiet check on 47 West Elm. Any activity tonight? Eyes only. No approach." Vito's voice crackled back, laced with the hum of warehouse generators in the background. "Boss? On Christmas?" "Yeah, we've got motion sensors pinging there since dusk." "Faint. Could be a vagrant, or one of ours gone rogue." Last manifest showed a Valentino truck rerouted through that block yesterday. Driver claimed engine trouble, but plates were swapped. "You need backup?" "Not yet. Just confirm the exterior. Key under the mat. Look for signs." Alessandro ended the call, Pocketing the burner from his desk drawer, the letter's indentations replayed in his mind. V watching. Valentino's, closing the noose. Elena's legal mind had always been sharp, embedding clues in plain sight. But why reveal the twins now? A decade of silence, then this Christmas bombshell. Grudge or genuine peril? The port dispute that birthed them had cost the Valentinos a fortune in seized cargo. Maybe this was payback, kids as unwitting pawns. The study door burst open. Marco, snow-dusted and breathing hard, his tablet glowing with schematics. Convoy's in. SUV bolted when we lit the flares, heading east toward the tunnels. We clipped a tire. They'll limp. Doc's with the kids. They're asking for you already. Alessandro nodded, striding to the console. A new alert blinked. Intercepted text from the burner's trace, fragmented but clear. Package delivered. Eyes on Moretti Gate. Proceed to Elm for pickup. Pickup. Elena, or the twins retroactively. His pulse thrummed, the room's shadows lengthening as the storm battered the windows. The mansion's generators kicked in seamlessly, a backup hum underscoring the tension. No blackout yet, but rivals knew how to cut power lines. Get a team prepped, discreet escort to Elm. I'm going. The words escaped before Prudence could reel them in. Marco's eyes widened fractionally, but he didn't argue. Loyalty meant following, not questioning. Boss, the kids, they're safe here. This is my mess. Alessandro's hand rested on the safe room panel, the twins' faces visible on a split-screen feed. Sophia tracing patterns in the condensation on a water glass, Luca pacing like a miniature sentinel. Their presence anchored him, a pull against the abyss of his old life. No more ghosts. These were flesh and blood, demanding he rewrite the rules. Outside, the convoy assembled in the courtyard. 3 black SUVs, tires crunching virgin snow, headlights slicing the night like accusations. Alessandro slid into the lead vehicle, the leather seats cold and unyielding, the scent of gun oil mingling with pine air freshener. Marco took shotgun, radioing rotations. 2 cars front, 1 rear, with a drone overhead tracking for tails. The gates groaned open, the drive a white tunnel flanked by evergreens heavy with ice. As they accelerated toward the city, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the flurries, Alessandro unfolded the letter once more under the dome light. The hidden message stared back, but a new detail caught him. A faint smudge on the envelope's flap, ink residue. Elena's perfume lingered faintly, jasmine and vanilla, a ghost from that long-ago night. Was she baiting him, or begging for rescue? The radio crackled. Vito here. Exterior clear at Elm. Keys there. Door ajar. But thermal's picking up 2 signatures inside. One's down. Down. Alessandro's grip whitened on the wheel. Elena, injured? Or a trap, with Valentino's waiting in the wings? The convoy pushed through the storm, the river's distant roar a grim reminder of submerged secrets as the question burned. Had she come back to him, or led the wolves straight to his door? If you're enjoying this story so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. The convoy sliced through the storm-lashed streets of Chicago's west side, the lead SUV's tires hissing over slushy asphalt, scarred by salt trucks and potholes. Alessandro gripped the wheel, the leather slick under his palms, as the dashboard glow lit Marco's face in harsh blues and reds. Flurries battered the windshield, the wiper's rhythmic thwack underscoring the radio's low chatter. Vito confirming no new pings from the warehouse cams, but the drone feed showing erratic heat blooms near the loading docks. The air inside carried the metallic bite of tension, mingled with the faint exhaust from the trailing vehicles. 47. West Elm loomed as they turned off the main drag, a hulking relic of the industrial era. Corrugated metal walls streaked with rust, sodium lamps buzzing faintly overhead, casting orange pools on the snow-piled curbs. The warehouse district was Alessandro's domain, a labyrinth of forgotten rail spurs, and chain-link fences where shipments of legitimate goods mask the syndicate's lifeblood. Crates of electronics rerouted from overseas. Cash flows laundered through shell companies. But tonight, it felt like enemy territory. The wind whipping discarded manifests across the lot, like spectral warnings. No other cars in sight, just the convoy's growl echoing off the brick facades. "Park at the alley mouth," Alessandro ordered, killing the engine. The SUVs fanned out, engines idling low, headlights dimmed to avoid drawing eyes from the distant highway. Marco and 2 enforcers, Rico and Lena, both ex-cops with steady hands, flanked him as they approached on foot, boots crunching through fresh powder. The cold clawed at Alessandro's coat collar, carrying the briny tang of the nearby river, where barges groaned under ice floes. His Beretta was a cold weight in its holster, but his code held him back from drawing first. No innocence, no rash pulls. Vito met them at the side entrance, a shadowed figure in a parka, his breath clouding in the chill. Doors cracked, like I said. Thermals steady, one's prone near the back office, vital signs weak. The other's pacing, could be a lookout. No weapons hot, but I swept the perimeter, tire tracks fresh, leading to the east fence. Valentino's, by the tread pattern. Alessandro nodded, scanning the facade. The key under the mat was gone, used, then left askew. Elena's doing, or an intruder's. He pushed the door open with his gloved hand, the hinges squeaking like a stifled scream. Inside, the warehouse swallowed them in gloom, the air thick with dust and the oily residue of old machinery. Pallets of boxed goods loomed like silent sentinels, their shadows dancing under the team's tactical lights. The concrete floor echoed their steps, slick with meltwater from a leaky roof, and the distant hum of a standby generator pulsed like a heartbeat. They moved in formation, Marco high, Rico low, Lena covering the flanks. Alessandro led, his senses tuned to every creak, the drip of condensation from exposed beams, the faint rustle of rats in the rafters. The back office was a partitioned corner, its frosted glass door ajar, spilling a sliver of fluorescent light. Thermal confirmed it. 2 figures, one slumped against a desk, the other frozen mid-stride. "Clear," Alessandro called softly, easing the door open. The room hit him like a gut punch. Cramped, cluttered with filing cabinets and a battered computer, smelling of stale coffee and printer ink. Elena Vasquez lay propped against the wall, her dark hair matted with sweat, a makeshift bandage around her thigh soaked through with blood. She was pale, her green eyes, those eyes he'd seen in the twins, fluttering open at the intrusion, hand fumbling weakly for a letter opener on the desk. "Alessandro?" Her voice was a rasp, laced with pain and defiance. No fear, just the lawyer's edge he'd once sparred with over dockside contracts. He crossed the room in 2 strides, kneeling beside her, his coat brushing the grimy floor. "Easy, it's me." His fingers checked the bandage, bullet graze, shallow but messy, cauterized crudely with a heated knife. No arterial spray, thank God. She'd patched it herself, buying time. The second figure was a ghost. No one there, just a jacket draped over a chair, its pockets turned out empty. A decoy? The pacing heat signature, explained by a space heater humming in the corner, its glow flickering on the monitors. Marco swept the space, rifle up. Clear. But look. Desk drawer forced. Someone was here. Elena's hand gripped his sleeve, her nails digging in. They came after the drop-off. Valentino's muscle knew about the kids somehow. I led them here, bought time with a fake trail, the code. It was for you to find me, not them. She winced, shifting, and pulled a crumpled photo from her pocket. The twins at a park, laughing, dated last summer. I never stopped watching your world. When the threats started, burners calling my office, cars tailing my runs, I knew it was payback for that port mess. They want your roots, Alessandro. The twins were the leverage. His mind raced, piecing the logistics. The Valentinos had infiltrated his manifests, swapping plates on trucks to skim loads. But this was personal. A decade-old grudge, festering into family strikes. He pressed a clean cloth from his kit to her wound, the metallic tang sharpening. Why hide them so long? Why now? Her eyes met his, raw with the weight of years. Because I loved you enough to keep them out. But fear won. They're yours, our code, your rules. Protect them like you couldn't protect her. Maria's shadow hung unspoken, the loss that had forged his ironclad vow. Marco's radio crackled. Boss, drones got movement. SUV circling the block, 2 blocks east. They're probing. Alessandro helped her up, her weight leaning into him, warm despite the cold. The pull was visceral, autonomy clashing with possession, her independence a flame he'd once chased. We move. Convoy's extraction point now. But as they shuffled toward the door, a faint beep echoed from the desk. The computer, left on, screensaver dissolving to reveal a partial email log. Valentino directive. Confirm Moretti heirs. Secure mother for exchange. Elm safe house compromised. Compromised. His blood chilled. Elena's plan or a leak? As the team hustled them into the night, snow swirling like veils, Alessandro supported her to the SUV, the warehouse fading behind. But the email burned in his vision. Who had tipped the Valentinos to the safe house? And what exchange were they planning next, with the twins as bait? The SUV lurched through the warehouse district's narrow veins, slush spraying from the tires as Alessandro floored the accelerator. Elena slumped against his shoulder in the back seat, her breathing shallow but steady, the scent of her jasmine perfume cutting through the vehicle's stale heat. Marco rode shotgun, tablet in hand, eyes glued to the drone feed relaying live schematics of the streets behind them. The trailing SUVs boxed them in tight, a rolling fortress against the storm's fury. But the radio's static crackled with unease. Intermittent pings from the circling Valentino scout, now veering toward the riverfront tunnels. They're not committing, Marco muttered, zooming the map. Probing for our route. If that email's fresh, they know we're extracting her. Someone talked. Could be one of Vito's dock rats. Or worse. Alessandro's jaw clenched, the wheel vibrating under his grip. The email log replayed in his mind. Valentino directive. Confirm Moretti heirs. Secure mother for exchange. An exchange. The twins, bartered like cargo in his own shipping lanes. His code rebelled at the thought. Innocence as currency was a line even rivals rarely crossed. But leaks happened. Human error, a bribed guard, or a grudge nursed in the shadows. Elena stirred, her hand finding his arm, fingers cool and insistent. Drive straight to the estate, she whispered, voice laced with pain. The kids, they need to see I'm okay. I didn't mean to drag you into this, Alessandro. The letter. It was my last card. He glanced at her, the dashboard glow etching lines of exhaustion on her face. 10 years apart, and she still commanded him without trying, autonomy wrapped in vulnerability, pulling at the possessiveness he'd buried after Maria. You dropped our blood on my doorstep like a grenade. No more hiding. They're mine now, and so are you. We'll sort the Valentinos. Her eyes flashed, independence flaring. I'm not property to claim. I raised them alone because your world chews up families. But yeah, they're yours too. Just keep them safe. The convoy hit the highway's on-ramp, merging into the sparse Christmas night traffic. Delivery vans ghosting under sodium arcs, their headlights fracturing in the snow. The estate's lights pierced the horizon like a beacon, but Alessandro's mind churned. The safe house compromise meant eyes inside his operation. Vito's crew handled the Elm manifests. Had one of them flipped for Valentino cash? Or deeper, a mole in the mansion's security, close enough to overhear the twins' arrival. Back at the estate, The gates parted with a grind of servos, the convoy spilling into the courtyard where guards stood sentinel, rifles slung low. Alessandro half-carried Elena inside, her weight a reminder of the Graze's toll. The foyer's chandelier casting golden warmth over marble floors slick with tracked melt. Doc Rivera waited, medical kit open on a side table, the air thick with the sterile bite of antiseptic and the faint pine of holiday wreaths wilting in the heat. "Get her stable," Alessandro barked, easing Elena onto a leather chaise. "No hospital. Too exposed." Doc nodded, peeling back the bandage with practiced efficiency. "Infection setting in, but clean. IV antibiotics, rest. She'll pull through." As Doc worked, Alessandro punched the safe room code, the panel sliding open. Luca and Sofia tumbled out, blankets trailing like capes, their faces a mix of relief and accusation. Sofia reached Elena first, burying her face in her mother's lap. "Mom, we waited. Dad said you'd come." Luca hung back, eyes on Alessandro, suspicion etching his young features. "The bad men? Did you get them?" Elena pulled them close, her arms trembling but firm, the family tableau a fragile knot in the opulent hall. "Not yet, Piccolo, but we're together now. Your dad's handling it." She met Alessandro's gaze over their heads. A silent plea laced with the old spark, trust versus the suspicion that had kept her away. Alessandro knelt, ruffling Luca's hair despite the boy's stiff posture. "Almost, but we need answers. Sofia, that locket, anything else Mom gave you? A key, a note?" Sofia shook her head, but Luca piped up, pulling a crumpled receipt from his pocket. "This, from the car ride. Mom dropped it when she was hurrying." Alessandro unfolded it. A gas station slip from the west side, time-stamped yesterday, with a scribbled address, Loop Diner, Neutral Ground, and a partial plate, V7L. Valentino Vanity? He pocketed it, the pieces slotting. Elena's trail from apartment to drop-off, intersecting a known Valentino hangout. "Good eye. Marco, run this plate. Cross-reference with our doc logs." Marco, already on his tablet in the adjacent study, grunted affirmatively. The fire there had been stoked back to life, embers glowing against the snow-lashed windows. "Got it. Plate ties to a rental under Gino Rossi, Valentino lieutenant, low-level enforcer. He's been spotted at our warehouses, posing as a supplier. And boss." That email. Timestamp matches a server ping from inside the city network. Someone accessed our manifest database last night, right after the kids arrived. Internal betrayal. Alessandro's blood ran cold, the room's warmth turning stifling. Rossi, he'd greenlit the man's access months back during a truce negotiation. Human error or calculated? Loyalty frayed by ambition, the syndicate's eternal rot. Elena watched him, her expression a mirror of his turmoil. Prudence clashing with the urge to strike. "Call Vito in," Alessandro said, voice steel. Quietly. "If it's him, we'll know by dawn." As the twins chattered softly with their mother, questions about Christmas delayed, a new alert chimed from the console. Motion at the east perimeter, a single figure slipping through the tree line, thermal faint, but deliberate. Marco's face hardened. Scout, alone, could be testing defenses or signaling the exchange. Alessandro stood, the weight of legacy pressing down. Protect the family he'd just found, or hunt the traitor before the Valentinos closed in? But as Elena's hand brushed his, a vow unspoken, he wondered if the real leak was closer than the docks. Maybe in the eyes of someone who'd overheard the twins' innocent claims that Christmas night. The study's fire had burned low, casting elongated shadows across the oak bookshelves lined with ledgers and forgotten legal tomes, relics from Alessandro's early days when the syndicate was more ambition than empire. He paced the Persian rug, the threads worn thin under his boots from years of midnight deliberations, while Elena rested on the chaise in the adjoining hall. The twins curled beside her under a shared blanket. The air hung heavy with the scent of smoldering oak and the sharp edge of Doc's rubbing alcohol, a reminder that safety was as fragile as the truce they'd just forged. Marco leaned against the console, his tablet screen reflecting the flicker of perimeter alerts, green indicators holding steady, but the lone scout's thermal signature had vanished into the tree line like smoke. Vito's en route from the docks, ETA 10. I've got Lena tailing him discreetly. If he's dirty, we'll know before he hits the gate. Alessandro stopped at the window, peering into the swirling snow that blurred the estate's floodlights into hazy halos. The river beyond the grounds murmured faintly, its frozen surface cracking under the wind's assault, a natural groan that echoed the tension coiling in his gut. Betrayal wasn't new. It was the syndicate's shadow, born of greed or grudges nursed in dimly lit bars. But this close. With the twins' voices drifting in from the hall, Sophia asking about Christmas lights, Luca countering with questions about the bad men's cars, it felt personal, a violation of the code that had kept innocents like Maria from the crossfire. Or so he'd thought. Run the access logs again, Alessandro said, turning. Who had eyes on the gate when the kids arrived? Full audit, cameras, radios, even the grounds crew. Marco nodded, fingers flying across the interface. The console hummed, pulling data from the estate's encrypted servers. Timestamps syncing with the twins' arrival, the black sedan's muddied plates, and the first alert chime. Gatecam caught the drop-off clean. Marco's team logged it, but... Wait. Secondary feed from the East Annex. Blacked out for 90 seconds. Power glitch or manual override? Alessandro's eyes narrowed. The annex housed the security hub, a bunker of monitors and servers buried under the mansion's east wing. Who was on rotation? Rico. He clocked in at 2200, but his badge pinged a restroom break right after. Could be nothing. Human error, cold night calling for a warm stall, but cross-referenced with the burner trace. That text about the package delivered bounced off a tower near the annex, close enough for a quick leak. Human error. Alessandro's code allowed for it. Guards were men, not machines. But the pattern screamed intent. Vito's name loomed larger. As dock lieutenant, he'd handled the Elm manifests, green-lighting suppliers like Gino Rossi. A swapped plate here, a rerouted truck there, and the Valentinos gained footholds in his shipping lanes. Ambition versus loyalty. Vito had risen fast after Maria's death, proving himself in bloody warehouse skirmishes, but whispers of East Side temptations had circulated for months. The foyer door creaked open, Doc Rivera stepping through with a nod. She's stable. Kids too, exhausted but no fever. I dosed her with something for the pain. She'll sleep soon. Want me to stay? Park yourself in the hall. Eyes open. Alessandro dismissed him with a glance, then strode to the twins. Sophia looked up, her green eyes heavy-lidded, clutching the locket like a talisman. Luca sat straighter, mimicking Alessandro's posture, a boy absorbing the weight of men's worlds too soon. Your mom needs rest, Alessandro said softly, kneeling. You too, same. But tomorrow we talk more, about everything. Luca's gaze flicked to the study door. The receipt? You find the diner guy? Working on it. Sleep now. That's an order. He ruffled the boy's hair, the gesture awkward but genuine, stirring a warmth that clashed with the chill of suspicion. Fatherhood demanded trust, yet suspicion was his armor, prudence against the pull of this newfound family. As Doc herded them toward a guest suite, soft beds with flannel sheets, a far cry from Elena's modest apartment, Alessandro returned to the study. The radio crackled, Vito's voice, gravelly from years at the docks. Boss, inbound. Got eyes on that plate. V7L ties to Rossi's crew. He's been sniffing around the Loop diner. Neutral spot for backroom deals. Want me to shake him down? Hold position, Alessandro replied, his tone even. We talk first. He killed the line, exchanging a look with Marco. The wind rattled the panes, snow piling against the glass like unspoken accusations. Headlights pierced the night 10 minutes later, Vito's truck crunching into the courtyard. He entered alone, snow melting off his boots onto the marble, his face weathered under the chandelier's glow, lines etched from salt air and syndicate stress. At 50, he was loyal muscle, broad-shouldered and scarred from a knife fight in the tunnels years back. But tonight, his eyes darted, a subtle tell, hand lingering too long in his coat pocket. "Boss?" Vito greeted, nodding to Marco. "Heard about the kids. Hell of a Christmas gift. What's the play?" Alessandro gestured to the leather chairs by the fire, the embers popping like suppressed doubts. "Sit. Tell me about Elm. And Rossi." Vito eased down, the chair creaking under his bulk. "Elm's quiet. Manifest clean last week, but yeah, Rossi's truck had that engine trouble. Plates swapped like I reported. Thought it was small-time pilfering. Valentino's testing waters. And the safe house compromise?" Alessandro leaned forward, voice low. "Email log from our database, time-stamped post-drop-off. Who had access?" Vito's brow furrowed, but his fingers tapped the armrest, a rhythm off, nervous. "Me and the foreman. But boss, I'd never. After Maria, you know I'm solid." The denial rang hollow. Marco's tablet beeped softly. Annex feed restored, showing Rico's badge ping aligning with the blackout. But deeper, a forwarded message from Vito's dock burner, intercepted hours ago. "Heirs confirmed. Elm pickup tomorrow. Rossi out." Alessandro's hand moved to his Beretta, slow and deliberate, the metal cool against his skin. "Your phone, Vito. Now." The room tensed, the fire's warmth turning stifling. Vito's eyes widened, hand freezing in his pocket. "Boss, wait!" But the radio erupted. Lena's voice, urgent. "Perimeter breach. East tree line. 3 hostiles armed. Scout wasn't alone. They're cutting the power lines." Lights flickered, the chandelier dimming as generators whirred to life. Darkness swallowed the edges, shadows leaping like betrayers. Vito lunged, but Marco was faster, tackling him to the rug with a thud that echoed through the hall. Elena's voice called out sharply from the suite. "Alessandro?" Mingled with the twins' startled cries. Alessandro drew the Beretta, the weight steadying him as he bolted for the hall. Gunfire cracked outside, muffled by snow. Valentino's probing, using the storm's cover. His code demanded protection. Family first, traitors second. But as he barricaded the suite door, Elena pulling the twins behind her, he locked eyes with Vito through the study's open frame. The man's face twisted in denial. Was Vito the leak, selling out for a slice of East Side power, or had ambition blinded him to a deeper rot? Someone closer, like Rico, feeding the wolves from within. The estate groaned under assault, and Alessandro wondered if the night's revelations would cost him more than loyalty. If this tale already has you hooked, hit the like button. It helps us bring more hidden stories to light. The estate plunged into controlled chaos as the generators thrummed to full life, bathing the halls in the harsh glare of emergency backups. Red-tinted floods that turned marble floors into bloodied paths. Alessandro braced against the suite door. Beretta raised, its barrel steady despite the adrenaline surging like river ice cracking under pressure. Outside, the storm howled in tandem with the gunfire. Sharp pops muffled by snow, answered by the deeper cough of his guards' suppressed rounds. The air thickened with the acrid bite of cordite seeping through vents, mingling with the foyer's fading pine scent from abandoned wreaths. "Elena? Twins. Back wall, now." Alessandro commanded, his voice a low rumble cutting through the twins' whimpers. Elena, pale but resolute, scooped Sophia into her arms while Luca pressed against her side, his small hand clutching her sleeve. The graze on her thigh limited her to a hobble, but her eyes burned with that lawyer's fire, autonomy refusing to yield even in peril. "We're not running," she hissed, positioning herself as a shield. "You handle the breach. We'll hold here." He shot her a glance, possessiveness flaring against her independence, a push-pull as old as their one shared night. "This is my code. You stay alive." The suite's monitors flickered, splitting feeds. Courtyard under siege, shadows darting between SUVs. The study where Marco pinned Vito, the lieutenant's denials turning to grunts under restraint. Rico's voice crackled over the radio from the annex. "Power lines cut, boss. Manual sabotage. East wing secure, but they're tunneling under the fence. 3 confirmed, maybe more." Tunneling. The river tunnels Alessandro had sealed after Maria's hit. Old bootleg routes snaking from the waterfront, now repurposed by rivals for infiltrations. Human error had let them reopen. A guard rotation skipped during holiday shifts, or Vito's oversight on dock patrols. Alessandro keyed his earpiece. "Marco, secure Vito. Lena, flank the east tree line. Flares and drones. No one breaches the inner perimeter." He cracked the door, peering into the hall where Doc Rivera crouched behind a console, medkit open, his wiry frame tense. The gunfire intensified, a staccato rhythm echoing off the mansion's stone facade. Alessandro slipped out, boots silent on the runner, the cold draft from a shattered window pane carrying snowflakes that melted on his skin like warnings. The chandelier swayed above, crystals tinkling like shattered glass, as he moved toward the study. Vito's betrayal, if it was that, gnawed at him. The man's scarred loyalty had anchored the docks for years, but behavioral tells screamed otherwise. That pocket linger, the tapped fingers, a gambler's tick, perhaps from East Side payoffs. Bursting into the study, Alessandro found Marco zip-tying Vito's wrists, the lieutenant's face bruised but defiant, blood trickling from a split lip. The fire had guttered out entirely, smoke curling lazily, the room's shadows pooling around the console where alerts blinked furiously, thermal signatures burrowing under the east fence, converging on the annex. "Boss, he was signaling," Marco growled, yanking Vito upright, burner in his pocket. Texts to Rossi confirming the heir's location. Vito spat, eyes wild. "Lies, it's Rico. Saw him fiddling with the servers during his break. He's the one with the Valentino ink under his sleeve. I covered for him once, thought it was old ties." Alessandro pressed the Beretta to Vito's chest, the metal warm from his grip. Loyalty versus fear. Vito's words rang with desperation, but the intercepted message didn't lie. "Your phone's got the timestamps. Elm compromise. The Scout. Your access code was used." The wind battered the windows, rattling frames as if the storm itself conspired. Outside, a grenade's muffled thump shook the foundations. Flashbang, not lethal, but the diversion reeked of infiltration tactics. "Draw fire to the perimeter while moles slipped inside." Marco's radio erupted. "Annex breach. Rico's down. Friendly fire? No, he's turning. Valentino patch on his vest." Gunshots cracked closer, the annex feed cutting to static. Human conflict boiled over. Rico, the ex-cop Alessandro had trusted for steady hands, flipped by resentment or cash. Institutional limits. Syndicate vetting missed the subtle tells, like off-shift absences aligning with Valentino probes. Alessandro holstered the Beretta, grabbing a tactical vest from the wall rack. Kevlar heavy with mag pouches, the scent of fresh oil grounding him. "Lock him down. If you're clean, Vito, prove it. Talk. Who's the inside man deeper?" He didn't wait for the sputter. Bolting for the east hall, the mansion's corridors a maze of locked doors and hidden panels. The blackout lingered in pockets, emergency lights buzzing erratically, casting strobe-like flickers that turned familiar portraits into leering ghosts. Reaching the annex stairs, he descended into the security hub. A concrete bunker humming with servers, monitors lining the walls like watchful eyes. The air was cooler here, laced with ozone from fried circuits, the river's damp chill seeping through foundation cracks. Rico lay sprawled amid shattered glass, vest torn to reveal the rose thorn tattoo, Valentino allegiance hidden under long sleeves. A bullet to the shoulder, not fatal. His eyes fluttered open, hand groping for a dropped Glock. Alessandro kicked it away, kneeling with a boot on Rico's chest. Why? Guards pay good. Rotation solid. What did they offer? Rico coughed, blood flecking his lips, fear cracking his facade. Routes. Your shipping lanes. Valentino's promised a cut, big enough to get out. The kids' drop-off? Overheard on gate radio, texted Rossi. But it wasn't just me. Vito knew, covered the manifests. The betrayal layered deeper, ambition fracturing the code. Alessandro zip-tied Rico's hands, radioing Marco. Annex secure. Rico's singing. Vito's complicit, but not the head. Probe his contacts. Upstairs, the gunfire tapered, Lena's team flushing the infiltrators back into the snow. 2 down, 1 fleeing toward the tunnels, thermal fading into the storm. He climbed back, the bunker door sealing with a pneumatic sigh, but the estate felt breached, trust eroded like the riverbanks after a flood. Returning to the suite, he found Elena barricading furniture against the door, the twins wide-eyed behind her. It's contained, he said, pulling her into a brief embrace, her warmth a counter to the cold rot of disloyalty. Rico's the leak. Turned for cash. Vito. We'll extract the truth. Elena's gaze searched his, suspicion yielding to reluctant alliance. And after? Your world, codes or not, it's poison. But for them... She glanced at the twins, Sophia dozing fitfully, Luca watching with quiet resolve. Alessandro nodded, the possessiveness softening into something like partnership. We rewrite it. Together. But as the generator steadied and the snow eased, a final alert chimed. An intercepted call from Rossi's burner, routed through the tunnels. Exchange set for dawn. Moretti's heirs for the mother. Dockside. No games. Dawn. The river docks, his stronghold turned trap. With Vito and Rico's confessions pointing to a larger network, Alessandro wondered, was the Valentino push just for roots, or a deeper grudge aiming to dismantle his legacy entirely, starting with the family he'd only just claimed? The first gray light of dawn bled through the storm clouds, painting the Chicago riverfront in muted silvers and grays, as Alessandro's convoy ghosted toward the docks. The lead SUV hummed over frost-cracked pavement, its tires gripping the slick asphalt scarred by salt and diesel spills. Alessandro sat rigid in the driver's seat, the leather creaking under his shifting weight, the faint metallic tang of gun oil from his vest mingling with the stale coffee Elena had insisted he drink before leaving. Marco rode beside him, tablet dimmed to conserve battery, eyes scanning the drone feed for tails. Empty roads so far, but the river's choppy murmur carried a deceptive calm, ice flows bumping against pilings like muffled warnings. Behind them, in the second vehicle, Elena cradled the twins, her bandaged thigh propped on a makeshift cushion, the air thick with the children's hushed questions and the low whir of the heater. She'd argued against the exchange, her independence clashing with his protective code, but pragmatism won. Bait the Valentinos out, end the threat on his turf. No trades, she'd said, voice steady despite the pain. We take them down clean. Luca and Sophia, bundled in oversized coats, peered out the tinted windows, their green eyes wide at the industrial sprawl. Towering cranes dormant under snow. Warehouses hulking like silent beasts, the sodium lamps flickering out as dawn asserted itself. Alessandro keyed the radio, his voice a controlled edge. Vito, position. From the third SUV, the lieutenant's response crackled, cleared after Rico's confession pinned the deeper leaks on a Valentino plant in the gate crew, not him. Flanking the east pier. Lena's team has the manifests rigged, dummy crates for cover. Rossi's boats inbound, thermal shows 4 aboard. No heavy artillery, they're banking on the exchange. The docks unfolded ahead, a labyrinth of loading ramps and chain-link barriers where Alessandro's empire pulsed. Shipping containers stacked like fortifications, the river's briny chill seeping through vents, carrying the distant groan of barges navigating the locks. He parked at the shadowed end of Pier 7, the convoy fanning out, engines cut, doors opening with soft clicks. The air bit sharp, snowflakes lingering in eddies, dusting the concrete like ash. Alessandro scanned the horizon. No visible hostiles yet, but the intercepted call's logistics rang true. Rossi, the lieutenant with the vanity plate, coordinating from a rented trawler to force the handoff, using Elena as leverage for the twins and a slice of the routes. Positions, he murmured into his earpiece. Guards melted into the gloom. 2 on the catwalks above, snipers with clear lines. Vito's crew rigging motion sensors along the water's edge. The exchange point, a neutral loading bay, floodlights off to avoid drawing city patrols, the only sound the lap of waves against rusted hulls. Alessandro signaled Marco to escort the family forward, but Elena stepped out first, supporting herself on the doorframe, the twins at her sides like small sentinels. "Mom, why the boat?" Sophia whispered, clutching Elena's hand, the locket glinting faintly. "To end it, Cara. Trust your dad." Elena's gaze met Alessandro's across the distance, a flicker of the old spark, possession tempered by mutual respect, her autonomy yielding just enough for unity. The trawler's engine growled low as it nosed into the pier, cutting power with a slosh that echoed off the water. Rossi emerged first, a stocky figure in a wool peacoat, flanked by 2 enforcers, neck tattoos peeking from collars, hands visible but hovering near concealed holsters. No dramatics. The Valentinos played smart, probing weaknesses with calculated risks. "Moretti," Rossi called, voice carrying over the wind, laced with East Side grit. "Heirs for the woman, clean swap, and we talk routes. No grudges after the port mess." Alessandro stepped into the open, Beretta holstered but ready, his frame silhouetted against the rising light. "No talk. Your crew's done. Rico spilled the network. Drop the play, or the river claims you." The words hung, tension coiling like the river's undercurrent. Behind him, Marco herded the twins toward a shadowed crate stack, decoy position, extraction route prepped via the service tunnel if it soured. Rossi chuckled, but his eyes darted. Tel Aviv, scanning for the snipers he couldn't see. "Family's a weakness, Alessandro. That decade-old hit, we finish it here." He gestured, and 1 enforcer shoved forward. But the move was the signal. A muffled crack from the catwalk, suppressed round clipping Rossi's shoulder, spinning him into the railing. Chaos erupted. Not graphic sprays, but efficient takedowns. Lena's team flushing the boat with flash diversions, guards converging from the stacks. The enforcers bolted for the gangplank, but Vito's crew cut them off, zip ties snapping like final judgments. Alessandro lunged for Elena as a stray shot whined off concrete, grazing her arm, fresh blood blooming on her sleeve, the cost of exposure hitting like a wave. She gasped but held firm, pulling the twins down behind cover as the exchange dissolved into rout. Rossi slumped against the pier, disarmed and bound, his burner phone skittering into the water with a plop. Logged, traced, the network unraveling from there. No full assault. The Valentino's probe crumbled under superior logistics. Drones jamming their comms, manifests rigged with trackers exposing their skim routes. By the time the sun crested fully, the docks cleared. Rossi and his men in custody, shipped to a discreet safe house for questioning. The trawler towed as evidence. Alessandro knelt by Elena, pressing a clean compress to her arm, the metallic scent sharp against the river's brine. It's over. Their push was for the lanes, but the grudge fueled it. Your hiding the twins kept them circling. She winced, but her hand covered his, the twins clustering close. Luca's defiance softening into relief, Sophia's tears tracing paths in the frost on her cheeks. Costly victory, she murmured, glancing at the bandage. Injury, exposure, but we held the code. He nodded, pulling them all into the SUV as the convoy reformed, the docks receding like a bad dream. Back at the estate, the mansion stood unbreached, its gates humming shut behind them. Doc patched Elena's new graze, minor, but a reminder of the night's toll. While the twins explored the playroom, their laughter a tentative bridge over the shadows. Vito, redeemed in the fray, coordinated cleanup. The traitor network exposed, routes secured, the Valentino's eastern faction crippled without a shot fired in excess. Alessandra watched from the study window as the river thawed under the morning light, the snow melting into rivulets that carried away the night's debris. Legacy wasn't the docks or the ledgers. It was this. Protection forged in fire. Trust earned through betrayal's sieve. A found family outlasting the Empire's raw power. Elena joined him, arm in a sling, her presence a quiet vow. No more hiding, she said softly. But your world. We shape it together. He turned, drawing her close, the twins' voices drifting from down the hall like echoes of a future reclaimed. The adventure's scars, physical and otherwise, faded against the warmth of loyalty and memory. The true treasure unearthed on that Christmas dawn. No ghosts remained, only the family they'd chosen, unbreakable against the tide. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of loyalty, danger, and found family. See you in the next story.